With this ban, Lance Armstrong now tops the doping hall of shame. But far from apologizing for his act, Lance is not even ready to acknowledge his misdeeds. He believes he is the target of an elaborate witch hunt by USADA.
Tainted and banned for life. Yet the shamed cyclist has lived in denial since the allegations first came to light.
I get asked a lot. People say, "Man, how you doing?" And I say this every time, and I mean it. I say, I've been better, but I've also been worse.
Ever since the USADA proclaimed it had gathered concrete evidence, the cyclist was engaged in a long legal battle with the doping agency. Armstrong soon realized he was fighting a losing battle and surrendered.
I don't have anything to worry about. I'm focused on the future. I've got 5 great kids. I've got a great lady in my life. I've got a wonderful foundation that is completely unaffected by any noise out there, and we're going to continue to do our job.
The dope taint started to isolate Armstrong. Even sponsors dropped out. Only the denials remained.
I thought in light of recent events I might ought to reintroduce myself. My name is Lance Armstrong. I am a cancer survivor. I've been asked to come up here and talk about my story of survivorship. I'm a father of 5, and yes, I won the Tour de France 7 times.
But after the UCI's decision, Lance can no longer call himself a 7-time Tour de France champion. And for a man who reached the pinnacle of success in his sport,
I'm not in this for money. I'm not in this for notoriety. I'm not in this for fame. I mean, I'm in it because I love it. And the day that I don't love it, I'm going to go away and I'm going to be a retired athlete.
Lance Armstrong now pays the price for not being true to a sport which he loved the most. Sports Bureau Times Now.
Richard, now is a time for Lance Armstrong to come clean.
Well, it would be nice to think that he could come clean and be honest about what went on. It's not really in his character. I mean, defiance defines him, and he was defiant on Friday evening at the Livestrong fundraising gala. I don't see him climbing down from that position. I think he's caught in a very difficult situation now, where if he does come clean, I think that he will be liable for huge legal costs, and he'll spend the rest of his life fighting legal battles, as he may do anyway. So it's an impossible situation for him now. I don't see him confessing.
Right since the time, Richard, the facts started coming out to the fore and more people testified against him, Lance Armstrong had been fighting a losing battle. The US cyclist perhaps knew what was coming and hoped that bailing out of a legal fight would limit the damage.
Lance Armstrong suffering defeat in his most high-profile battle yet. While the American cyclist remained in denial, the US anti-doping agency upped the ante. With 3 of his former associates banned for life, time was fast running out for Lance.
And if I have to apologise now on behalf of the UCI, what I will say is that I am sorry that we couldn't catch every damn one of them red-handed and throw them out of the sport at the time.
Just as the USADA proposed a lifetime ban 3 months ago, Armstrong received a big jolt in his fight as the Texas court rejected his plea. Armstrong deciding against fighting the charges. A life ban was inevitable. But it was the 1,000-page dossier and a 200-page report released by USADA that nailed Armstrong.
I was sickened by what I read in the USADA report. One stands to mind very strongly to me was David Zabriskie. The story that he told of how he was coerced and to some extent forced into doping is mind-boggling. And I just found it very difficult to accept, very difficult to take, and very difficult to understand that actually went on. But I accept that it did go on.
With the Cycling Governing Council confirming Armstrong was a doping ringleader. Once a legend, now banned and stripped of his tour titles. Sports Bureau Times Now.
Richard Moore still with us. Richard, before we let you go, one more question. Why only Lance Armstrong? Shouldn't some officials also be investigated because he couldn't have managed all of this alone?
Definitely. It's just a case of who carries out that investigation. The only body who may have some authority over the UCI is the IOC, but I think they're reluctant to get involved at this stage. And there definitely needs to be an investigation into the UCI and their role in this. Even if they weren't actually enabling Armstrong's doping, they were presiding over the sport at a time when there were legitimate suspicions about Armstrong, which they chose to ignore. And when riders came forward and spoke about doping.
Richard, thanks for talking to us. Latest coming in that after Nike, even Oakley have withdrawn their sponsorship to Lance Armstrong. We'll have to see the ramifications of this decision by UCI. It will only come to the fore in the coming days. Thanks for talking to us.